Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wavy Baller Hub. If this is your first time watching with me, make sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and follow the movement that is the Wavy Baller Hub. We are doing a match preview today, man. Early in the morning, 7 a.m. here. You feel me? Bright and early, but we're going to get at it, have a good time, talk about this upcoming match away to Brentford. Very interesting, obviously, off the back of a very difficult um, last weekend, losing to Brighton at home. And we need to win this game. I can't emphasize it enough. Um, Facing Liverpool the week after, so we need to get some level of momentum. It's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be real interesting and really interesting. I have a great guest with me, man. Really great guest with me. Um, Very, very intellectual, very smart Manchester United fan, guys. I'm not bringing anybody on this channel if they're not bringing the heat with the football opinions, man, and the football knowledge, man. I love to learn from different people and get different opinions. So, guys, I'm going to bring my guy, Charlie, a.k.a. THREADMANCHAZA, into the building. Bro, what's going on?
What's up, mate? Thanks a lot for having me on.
Yes,
Finally.
sir. I know, man. I know it's been a minute. It's been a minute. We've been trying to get this set up for quite a while now, and I'm really happy that you're on the channel. Let's get in the comments real quick. Drizzy Des says, "Yo, tell me what's up. What's good, bro? Hope you're doing well." Ugly Bear, hey, tell me how you doing, bro? Doing well. Can't complain. It's a bright and early morning here. It's not bright. It's kind of gloomy outside, and I'm looking out the window, but it's all right. It's all right. I can't complain. Let's get into it, man. Let's get right into it. Um, Manchester United versus Brentford, big match, man. Obviously, I can't remember an opening weekend that was that underwhelming. And I'm trying to think of an opening weekend that was that underwhelming. Last year, I think we faced Leeds and won like 4-1. The year before that, we faced I can't remember who we faced. I
Didn't
remember,
we lost to Palace
did we?
1 year?
Oh, we lost. You're right. We lost to
I
Palace
remember which year
3-1, and then the year before that was Chelsea 4-0. So
that.
yeah, no, you're right. That you're right. The Palace result was pretty bad too. So struggles all over the place for Manchester United. Years and years of pain, but we have an opportunity to get 3 points against Brentford, a team who had a very interesting weekend. Down 2-0 last week against Leicester, came back in really impressive fashion. First of all, let's talk about Brentford for a split second. Real quick, Charlie, what are your thoughts on the threat that Brentford poses for us coming into this game?
Yeah, well, Brentford, I've actually got them to go down this season, which is a bit of a controversial take.
Interesting.
But, I'm probably going to end up sort of with egg in my face at the end of the season, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, Brentford are a decent side. I just think often teams struggle from this sort of second season syndrome. You see it quite a lot. But Brentford, to be fair to them, they've signed Damsgaard. I think he's
Yeah.
a new player. So Brentford are always going to be a test, especially when you go to their stadium. I think obviously they've lost Ericsson, which is a big loss for them, in my opinion. But obviously they've got Tony. I would take Ivan Tony for United, really.
100%. I would too.
20 million, something like that. So obviously he's a massive threat up front. Strong hold-up play, link-up play. They've obviously got Mbuemo as well, who plays off Tony a lot. Very, very good player, very direct.
Yeah.
And they're just a solid. You just know what you're going to get from Brentford.
Yeah.
You just know what you're going to get. So I think we will probably struggle because obviously it's their first home game of the season.
Right.
They've obviously switched to I think they're playing a 4-3-3 now. They used to play 3 at the back, but they've switched their formation. So they're going to play with 3 forward players. So that's going to be interesting to see how we deal with that.
Yeah.
I'd say just they are a well-oiled sort of machine, Brentford. I just think over the whole season, with the squad that they've got, I think with the second season syndrome that some teams sort of suffer, I don't think they'll be finishing above sort of 15th. But they always are sort of a tough. They're always a tough opponent to deal with. So yeah, I think it'll be a tough game. But Leicester showed, Leicester's team isn't brilliant, and Leicester should have won that game. Really, they were 2-0 up last weekend. Leicester haven't signed any players, and they sort of played decently well against Brentford, and Brentford obviously fought back for a point. So, look, I know we're not at a great level now, but we, as you said, we've got to win. We've got to win.
Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of what you just said there. I think the Brentford squad is very, very threadbare, right? They do have one or two decent players, like you mentioned. I do respect their manager a lot, right? Like I think that they're definitely punching above their weight class. Definitely punching above their weight class. I think Fulham's squad is better, right? Than who just came into the league. So it on paper we should be winning this game, but because of the shock factor of last week, I think a lot of us are just nervous, right? Brighton's a much better side than Brentford, in my opinion. But even then, just off the back of getting I'm not gonna lie, this is the first time I've seen a preseason get me excited. Like I let preseason get me excited this season, which was a mistake. I've never done that. Transfer windows don't excite me. Preseason has never excited me because I just know that it's all a facade until that first game hits.
Yeah.
But then I got sucked in, and then the way last week happened, now I'm nervous. But that being said, we have injuries in the squad. We have I don't want to say dissension is not the right word, but just unrest, I think, is the word to use. Martial's injured, which is really big. And we'll talk about the tactics here right now. Let me get in the comments really quick, guys. Drop your thoughts in the comments. My guy Triple M says, big up Temi, big up Charlie. Much love, bro. Kahar Abdul says, we need midfielders. We definitely do. I'm glad we lost what we did last week. It showed Ten Hag there's still much work to do. 1,000%. I'm sure he didn't. I'm sure there's no chance in the world he thought that was going to happen. I'm beyond confident he thought it was going to be a good night out, but it is what it is. Let's get into the tactics. Obviously, last week was a bit different. We didn't start with the striker. Christian Eriksen played false nine, which I wasn't a big fan of. I kind of limited his ability, right, in that game. What do you think is going to happen up front? Let's start there. Obviously, Cristiano Ronaldo is ramping up his fitness. Martial is injured. So we don't really have a natural. I'm not sure if Ronaldo will start this week, but we haven't had a natural number 9 for the past week and a half or so. So what are your thoughts on what that front line would look like?
I think Ronaldo's got to start. Apparently, Martial's not back in training yet. But Martial, I think you do as well. I rate him very highly in terms of his ability. But I said at the end of last season, Martial is not someone you can say, I can rely on you for a whole season. You just can't. It's the same with a lot of our players. So,
right.
Look, Martial, I think Ronaldo, if Ronaldo's ready, I think Ronaldo should start. I think if you look at what happened against Brighton, obviously we play with a false 9. And if you're a Brighton defender, that Christian Eriksen isn't going to make that many runs in behind. He's not going to test you going the other way. Christian Eriksen is always going to come to feet. So if you look at the way we actually set up, we almost had 4 midfield players, didn't we?
Right.
Temi, Fred, Bruno. And I know Bruno, like in Ollie's system, was very much more of almost a number 9 at times.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't really a midfielder; he was more a forward. But obviously, in this sort of staggered 4-3-3 with Fred at the 6, McTominay as an 8, and then Bruno is almost in a 10 position, but he's maybe playing a little bit deeper than he was at Brighton.
Yeah,
we almost had 4 midfield players. So Brighton played the 3-4-3 diamond so they had 4 in midfield as well. And whenever McTominay and Fred got the ball, they knew that was trigger the press. That was where they could hurt us, because they knew they could leave spaces out wide, because even if the wide players were one-on-one against the wide centre-backs and beat them, there's no focal point in the box. Eriksen's coming sort of deep. So the whole issue against Brighton played exceptionally well. I couldn't see it in the stadium. I went to the game. I couldn't see it because you can't see things. But when I watched it back on telly, Brighton, the way they set up was really, really good.
Yeah.
So in terms of what we do against Brentford, I think we've definitely got to bring in Ronaldo. Because I don't think any of our midfielders, I don't think Bruno or Eriksen suit a false 9 personally. I don't think they do. So I think I'm bringing Ronaldo, because I think when Ronaldo came on, we looked a lot more dangerous. We really did.
Oh yeah.
In the box, we didn't create, Rashford's chance I think was offside anyway, but we didn't create anything like you would say, oh, you've got to score that chance. That's an absolute, that's a sitter that you've missed, other than
Right.
Rashford, sort of Rashford shot. But
Yeah.
I'd say when Ronaldo came on, we did look better. So I put Ronaldo in. Look, Ten Hag. It depends how you want to look at it. I don't know how you see it, but you look at the first game and think, right, some players were really poor. Do we drop them and make sure that we've got this high standard? If you don't play well, you get dropped. Or does Ten Hag want this continuity? Does he want to build relationships? It depends how you look at it. I personally prefer the first option. I'd say the likes of look. If we had another goalkeeper that could play, I'd drop De Gea. I really would. Like if we had another right back, I'd drop Dalot. Oh no, we've got Wan-Bissaka, but it just isn't good enough.
Right.
So I don't know what you would do, but I would try and make quite a few changes.
Yeah. So a bunch of great points there. Let's get into the comments and I'll respond to you here in a second. They just played long ball to Welbeck. He did brilliantly to hold the ball up. He did. Welbeck was really, really good that game. And Welbeck's a good player. I mean, I always liked him, even at United. McTominay was practically non-existent. We'll get to that in a second. Can I ask about Michael Knighton that's been blowing up over social media over the last few days? I mean, if he was a good guy, why did Edward Ward and Sir Alex put him off the board? That will be a conversation for tomorrow, actually. I'm doing a show with another friend. Stay tuned for that. So that's a little precursor, Ugly Bear. So make sure you tune in tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock. But yeah, on the topic of, the forward line, obviously Ronaldo's our best. It's sad to say that a 37-year-old is our best, probably forward player, but he is. It's clear he wants to leave, which is kind of the weird thing for me. And I've been really pissed off about that, to be honest with you, and how he's handled it. But he has to play, right? If he's healthy, he has to play. I don't like. I at the end of the day, I want Manchester United to win football games, and he directly makes us better. It's just a fact, right? Like especially with Martial not playing, having him in the side, I think is crucial. And then I think it helps the likes of a Sancho to like look up and see someone in the box that he can like actually reach. I pitied Sancho last week, and I pitied Rashford to an extent too, because I just thought they were receiving no joy on the ball. Like they didn't have the opportunities to express themselves. And I feel like Rashford had more opportunities to do so and failed, right, than Sancho. Whereas Sancho, again, he just didn't have opportunities. So it's hard to really judge his performance so much. But yeah, no, I think it's probably, if I'm a betting man, it'll probably be Sancho, Ronaldo, and Rashford starting up top, right? Which is fair. I'm curious to see if maybe he drops Rashford, right? I would drop Rashford, to be quite honest with you. I'm so over it. I can't emphasize how over it I am with him in terms of just, one, his confidence is shot. Two, he's not, the tracking back isn't there, which is a huge problem. And then three, it's just the overall quality when he does get the ball. It's just not been good enough. I wouldn't mind seeing, like, I know people don't like Anthony Elanga. I kind of like Anthony Elanga, right? I think he offers something, right? And I'm not getting anything from Marcus Rashford right now. Like, at least I know with Elanga, he's going to track back and, put in a cross every once in a while, whereas we're not getting that from the likes of Marcus Rashford. But it's interesting to see. Do you think there will be any more changes outside of Ronaldo? Do you think he'd make a change when switch up Sancho or Rashford?
Well, I hope he does. I think Luke Shaw should be dropped. That's the first change I made. I know when Malacia came on, he made a couple of fouls. I think he got booked in. He almost looked like he looked like he looked like a kid, like playing in the park, didn't he? But the thing is with Malacia, like, and this is not in terms of their footballing ability, right? But when you see Luke Shaw coming onto a pitch, compare that to what I saw when Malacia came on as a sub. They just looked different in terms of motivation. Malacia came on, he looked like he actually wanted to prove a point. Right. I think that picture, wasn't there? The home game against Wolves last season when Phil Jones played? All the players come onto the pitch and their heads were all down. They all looked like they did. And you saw Phil Jones, who is he's a very good professional. You can say what you want about injuries and everything, but Phil Jones has always been very professional. he'll give it everything, although he's had injuries and he might not be good enough or this, that, and the other. You could see the difference in the motivation to play for Manchester United. You can see that, and you can see that in Malacia. And I'm not just saying it. I'm not one of these people who just goes off passion and desire, etc.
Right.
You can see what sort of the difference in sort of the mentality almost. So that's another point with Malacia. I think he's a good player, but he also looks like he wants to prove a point, and he looks like he would be a warrior for us.
Yeah,
I think he will be. So I'd bring Malacia in.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'd switch the whole team out. Like, bar maybe one or two. I'd probably keep Maguire and Martinez because I think they were decent, even though they had the rest. Everybody else was pretty bad. But like, Shaw could get benched. Dalot can get benched. Fred and McTominay. Let's actually go to the midfield right now, because I think this is where we're gonna spend most of our time on this discussion. I keep on saying it. Fred and McTominay must be abolished. I think that's my new phrase. Fred and McTominay must be abolished. The Rabiot discussion. Honestly, I know people are not big fans of Rabiot, but I'm not the greatest fan of Rabiot. But what I do know is that he's better than Scott McTominay. That is a guarantee. I'm not even the least bit, that's no shock. But let's talk about that. Do you your honest opinion? Like, do you think that Fred and McTominay will start on Sunday or Saturday? Excuse me.
No, I don't.
Wow.
I think Fred will play. I think Fred will play, and I think I would look if I was in charge, I would drop Bruno and I play Eriksen and Donny. That would be my choice. That would be my personal choice. Like McTominay, we all know the issues with McTominay. Well, some people don't. Some people still think he's a great player. You can think that if you want. Everyone's got their own opinion. You know what I mean? But we won't get anywhere with McTominay in midfield. Fred as a number 8, you might get somewhere. Fred as a number 6, you're still not going to get anywhere. But you've probably got to play McTominay or Fred, unless you're chasing a game. Remember against Brighton, Eriksen went into the 6.
Right.
So you can't really do that. You can't really have like Eriksen, Donny, and Bruno. That midfield against a good team, you're going to struggle, particularly like in transition, things like that. So maybe a little bit of physicality as well. Yeah. Although people, I don't know why, but people get this idea that McTominay and Fred are very, very good defensively. They're awful. They really are. Like their positioning. McTominay, even when McTominay goes into a duel, sometimes he gets like kicked off the ball. Yeah. People think just because he's tall, he's strong and all this. It's actually not. Like they don't offer anything. Fred gets dribbled past way too easy. So when I say you need to play one of them, it's probably more because you just want somebody who just doesn't venture forward as often, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
McTominay and Fred, positionally, they're going to be a little bit deeper. So naturally, you're going to be able to stop sort of counterattacks better, right? But in terms of what, like, compared McTominay to Donny defensively, in terms of if you go through all the metrics, tackling, positioning, if you told Donny you need to sit here and you can't roam, I think if you go through all the metrics in terms of pressuring, tackling, sort of whatever you want to say, jockeying, you wouldn't see McTominay in an incredibly higher metric than you would Donny. You really wouldn't. McTominay and Fred, they just play together because they're seen as players who can defend, but they really can't. They're just players who they can stay in deeper spaces, and they'll do a bit of a job for you, but they won't do it very well.
My bad. I was going to say I have high respect for Erik ten Hag, which is why, I don't want to say I was shocked that Fred and McTominay were starting, but I do believe in team shape. I'm a big believer in that. I think that a lot of fans don't understand. Like, I don't want to disrespect fans, but I don't think a lot of fans understand team shape, like, and how important it is to a side. Like City, they're like, oh, City play a bunch of offensive players. I'm like, no, they don't. They play with 3 forwards, and then there's probably 3 other people who are just, focused, who have positional awareness. They're wide players, track back, like there's an element of always continuity there. Fred and McTominay, right? I know there's like a contingent of Fred fans, right, that like you know, like they like because he has a bit of technical ability, they just ignore everything else and all of his weaknesses and frailties. And I'm over that. Like I used to really defend Fred a lot, but it's like over time, it's like you can't keep having these diabolical games and then I'm just defending you because you made a good pass or you had a good game or it's Fred and McTominay are synonymous, right? You know, and that's my challenge, right? I'm a little stunned that Donnie hasn't really gotten a go under Ten Hag so far. Even in preseason, he didn't get a lot of reps with the first team. And I don't know what he has to do to get a start for Manchester United. If he doesn't start against Brentford this Saturday, if I'm him, I'm just like, it's over, man. I just have to leave, right? Like, there's just no, because I mean, after seeing that, I'm sure, and to answer I asked the question to you, I think Fred and McTominay, one of them will get dropped, right? I don't know who it's going to be, to be honest with you. If I'm guessing, it's probably McTominay because he was just so diabolical. He was just so bad. But Fred deserves to be dropped too. Like I feel, you know, in my head, I remember I was just so pissed. I'm like, man, just play Savage and Iqbal, right? You know, but obviously you don't want to throw kids in that.
The thing is, though, what Ten Hag might see, and it makes a little bit of sense. Like what I said about the physicality, just because McTominay is tall, like it's like just because Martinez is small doesn't mean Martinez isn't good in the air. It's the same thing with McTominay. Just because he's tall doesn't. But Ten Hag might look at the balance of the midfield and he might think, well, Fred, Eriksen, and Bruno, there's nobody in there that is going to impose themselves a little bit more physically. Right. Although I think McTominay, like, okay, he's taller. On average, he's probably going to win more headers than Fred will. Yeah. But it doesn't mean he's very good in the air. Like if you actually watch McTominay when like players are going for duels, he should hold his position at times. Right. He goes in, or he should go in and he holds his position. Like he hasn't got the awareness of what to do when. Whereas a player like Donny van de Beek, it probably is. I wish there was a way of measuring this, but Donny van de Beek, in terms of his decision making, he probably doesn't win as many headers as McTominay does. But the way his awareness of the pitch, where to be on the pitch, whether to drop off, whether to go into a duel, it's probably better than McTominay. So I think people like when in a football match, people always focus on things that you can, like on the ball, things that you can actually notice. But a lot of people don't notice like player positioning, like awareness. It's hard to notice. Of course it is. It's hard to notice it because on the TV, you obviously only follow so much of the game. It goes with the ball, so it's hard to notice. But I think a lot of people just think because McTominay's gone into a tackle, you know, he's brilliant, should be a Man United captain, he shows passion.
Oh my God.
Sometimes you don't need to show the passion. Sometimes the best way is just to drop off a few yards. You know, team shape's important. Make sure that you're doing things in unison. But as somebody's commented, McTominay is a red card. He should have got sent off against in that tackle. He just controlled the ball, and then it's just
it's a painful one for United fans because we've been dealing with it for 3 years now, right? And I think my biggest issue with the fan base on this discussion is that like you mentioned, like we have a McTominay fan base who sees his physical, I guess because he's a very athletic person, right? You know, he is very tall. He is very strong. He does put himself about. I'll give him that. But the quality, like we go into every, like 9 times out of 10, like that Caicedo kid from last week, way better player.
10 times a player.
Yeah. Way better player. And it's just like they probably like, you know, the fact that Brighton have better, like definitively better, not even like it's like close. No, it's definitively better midfielders is stunning to me. It's actually stunning to me. So I hope that either Eriksen or, you know, or Donnie comes in, right? I imagine it'll be Eriksen, right? I imagine it would be Eriksen that would come in, but I don't know. It's gonna be a weird one. And then defense, right? I listen. I'm not Harry Maguire's. I don't know if you know this, but I've never been a fan of Harry Maguire from the jump. From literally probably 2 months into his career, I've been saying this guy's not good enough. But That being said, I thought he was, out of the bad bunch that we had, I thought him and Lissandro were probably the best outfield players. Maybe you could say Erickson too when he dropped deeper later in the game. But I thought Maguire was decent. You know, I pitied I saw people blaming him for the first goal, right? I didn't blame him for that first goal at all. I blame Dallo more so for his weird positioning for that pass to get through to Danny Welbeck. But again, his frailty showed that he couldn't recover once the ball got played behind him. He was just so slow. Like his recovery it felt like he was walking in quicksand. It was ridiculous. The fans that support McTominay are the fans who questioned why Jose Mourinho was sacked. That's hilarious. Yeah, but what are your thoughts on the defense? Obviously, I'm still a little wary on Maguire. I'm stunned that Rafa Varane isn't getting a look in. I understand the logic behind it because Harry he does have decent. He does, like, I don't know how to word it, but like he's decent on the ball. Like he is. I have to give it to him. Like Harry is better than the average tall, lanky center back, right, on the ball. So I think that's why Ten Hag favors him and why he moved him over to the right hand side, right? What are your thoughts on what he's going to do with the defense?
I would, well, let's start a left back. As I said, I'll bring
Malacia in, right?
Because Shaw, as I said, I've said this a million times, but Shaw off the ball has not got any awareness. He doesn't know what, like, for example, you know, when Jose Mourinho is a man he's one of my favourite people in football of all time, Jose Mourinho. I respect him a lot. Right. I think he's but by sort of head and heels of everyone else in terms of our best manager since Fergie for me. I really do. And if you look at Jose Mourinho in terms of things he said in the past, sort of your body and my mind about Luke Shaw, and he was spot on. Because Luke Shaw doesn't have the awareness. He really doesn't. Like, he doesn't close people down with enough intensity. You know, he plays players on side a lot. We saw that last season with a few goals that we conceded. He hasn't got the awareness of where to be on a pitch. And Jose Mourinho was spot on, the same as Jose was spot on about Rashford can't be a number 9. He got proved right about that. He got proved. Obviously, you get a few things wrong, like he signed Fred, Jose, right. And he'll look back and he'll think, well, Fred for 50 million. Well, yeah, I don't know whether that was his first choice, etc. But yeah, you don't get everything right. Of course you can't. But Jose, I think I have a lot of respect for him, and I think he got the Shaw thing spot on. Maguire, as you said, I think he was partly to blame for that goal, but I think, as you said, Dallo, also De Gea should have been more proactive and could have stopped that easily, in my opinion, when the cross came in. So yeah, I thought Maguire and Martinez did okay, so I'd leave them the same. No option. The only option you've got a right back is Lindelof, is an inverted maybe. You can't play that attacker. One of the worst signings we've made for a long time. So you've got to play Dallo, really. But just going back on the McTominay thing, I've just looked up on FBref about McTominay, and you can see like his tackles won, his pressures are actually in the lowest like percentiles compared to other midfielders. So he wins a lot of aerial duels. As I said, he is tall. Doesn't always necessarily mean you're good in the air. Doesn't always necessarily mean you're good in the air. Like Maguire is very good in the air defensively, but when he's going forward, terrible. McTominay's in the lowest percentiles for tackles, pressures, and things like this on the whole. So although McTominay looks like he imposes himself on things, he actually doesn't win that many tackles on average and interceptions, and pressures. So although McTominay looks like he's given everything, he runs around. A lot of the things he does, he's running around like a headless chicken, not actually impacting the game.
Right. No, I completely agree.
Donny, people think Donny doesn't. It's the opposite. McTominay, people think he does a lot because he runs around and it looks like he's imposing himself. He actually doesn't do anything much that's that sort of useful. And then people think Donny's rubbish and he's never going to make it, doesn't do anything. But actually, Donny is impacting the game a lot through his third man runs, through the way he appreciates space, his awareness.
That's how you see football. I think a lot of people there's just, I think in English football there's different appreciations for certain types of players, right? Like I think that like if Donny was in Spain or Italy, even Germany, he'd be playing week in, week out, right? Not because those leagues are worse, but just because he fits what his skill set would be appreciated in those countries, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in England, it's not. And then on your Shaw point, I'm a Shaw fan. I'll be completely honest with you. I've always liked Luke Shaw. I think it's kind of like, I use this comparison. I want to hear what you think about this. It's very similar to Martial, right? If there's people who love Martial, there's people who cannot stand the sight of Martial, right? And their criticisms of Martial are always, he's lazy, he doesn't work hard enough. When he's not scoring goals, he's not, or let me not say when he's not scoring goals, like they just think he's like a lazy person, right? And he's not, he's not driven. He doesn't have that motor. It's the same thing with Luke Shaw for me, right? Luke Shaw has, to me, when he is on his game, like when he is playing at his apex, right? I think he's one of the best left backs in the league without a doubt, right? But we don't get it enough. And it's kind of the same thing with Martial. Can you rely on Luke Shaw for a whole season? No. Can you rely on Martial for a whole season? Probably not, because both are injury prone, both lack that energy, that motor that you'd want from a professional footballer. Why can't Bruno Fernandes be dropped? This is a great question. It's a great question. I thought, I don't know. It's so early, and I believe in this manager, so I'm not gonna overthink this too much. I'm gonna trust Ten Hag. He's proven that he's deserving of Manchester United's fans' time and patience, right, with what he's achieved in his career so far. The Bruno thing's an interesting one. I think we are not, as fans, we don't see what happens on the training pitch, right? And there are players who train extremely well. Like there's players who I think Fellaini's an example of that. Like, remember when we would always ask ourselves, like, why is Fellaini playing? Why is Fellaini playing? And it's like and the multiple managers kept picking him, right? He must have been elite on the training. Like that's always been my theory, is he must have been fucking elite on the training pitch, just putting in tackles, great on the ball, that's doing things, and then it just didn't translate, for us as fans, right? I think that's what it is for Bruno now, especially now that he's not scoring as many goals as he once was. Like, we get very frustrated. I'm sure Ten Hag has assessed these guys to a high level, right? This man was in the Champions League final, 2 years ago. There's something he's seeing in Bruno for him to be playing him, so much. I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are on this, Charlie.
Yeah, firstly on Fellaini, like I hear where you're coming from on Fellaini, but I actually really liked. I didn't like him in our first 11.
Squad player, yeah.
As a plan B on the bench, if I think about the goals that Fellaini scored, I think he brought the ball down for Mata's goal in the FA Cup final under Van Gaal. He scored in the League Cup semi-final at home to Hull, I think it was, that got us through to the League Cup. So Fellaini, he probably scored many other important goals, but Fellaini, I think he got disrespected by a lot of our, not because he was incredible, he wasn't an incredible player, but that is such a useful option to have on the bench.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Underrated. Because he drags players towards him, defenders get worried, more space will open up for another player. So but anyway, enough. I don't want Fellaini back, by the way. I just think we need that sort of option.
No, I feel you. I was just using that as an example because I think a lot of fans didn't like him. And I was always just hit or miss on him, right? He started a lot of games too. Like, he started a ton, especially under Jose. Like, I feel like he started. I was just like, okay, this guy's back in the lineup. And I was just like, he shouldn't be playing this much. But anyway, I digress. What are your thoughts on the Bruno thing?
Oh, Bruno. Again, this is another one that there's so hard to find an opinion in the middle. On Twitter, you've either got Bruno is world class or Bruno is awful.
Trash. Right.
That's the only opinion you get. My opinion has always been the same. I've never changed my opinion on Bruno. But I've never changed my opinion. I've always said he's a very good ball striker. I'm not about a striker as in position. I mean the way he
strikes the ball. Yeah,
that's one of his best attributes. He strikes the ball better than obviously when he was scoring a lot of goals, he was showing that he can strike the ball better than some forwards can. Right, so that's a very good attribute he has. I think his runs off the ball are good. I think generally his work rate's quite good as well. But I've always had the same opinion on Bruno. He will have to adapt his game to sort of for us to be successful. He really will. Like I put out a thread before Ten Hag came, and I said I think Ten Hag will use Bruno. I do, but I think Bruno will have to adapt a little bit, and if he doesn't, then he might have to make way. And what I mean by that is, like, I rewatched the game against Brighton because it's always good to get a clean slate. You know, watch it the next day with no emotions attached, etc. I was watching the game, and Bruno was doing the same things that he'd been doing for years. You know, in pre-season, the first couple of games of pre-season, I noticed a slight improvement with Bruno, a slight improvement, and then at the end of pre-season, he sort of went back to his old ways. And then again against Brighton, he went back to his old ways, where, like, people have got this idea that you need this massive risk taker in your team. Like, and to an extent, you are right. You need a more direct player in your team. If you look at Liverpool, the fullbacks do it. If you look at City, De Bruyne does it. If you look at Chelsea, maybe is a little bit different.
Right.
But you could say with Chelsea, they're very boring to watch. They don't score enough goals. Maybe.
Yeah.
But like if you want to be one of the best teams in the world, you will need at least one, maybe two more direct players in your team. You know, you can't have a team full of Donnies or a team full of Busquets or Xavis, or you can't have that. So you need a couple of direct players. But the issue is, for me, is when and where Bruno is direct. For me, I think far too early in our build-up, he tries to be direct rather than doing it closer to goal. I think that's the big thing for me. Like we saw last season under Ranić, under Ollie, he was sort of trying these 30, 40-yard passes from the middle third of the pitch. You know what I mean? But then if you look at the way he sort of fed Ronaldo for that goal away at Spurs, they're the sort of areas I want to see Bruno taking those risks. Because if you lose the ball there, you're in a good structure to get the ball back.
Right.
If you lose the ball closer to our own goal, you're in trouble, aren't you?
Yeah, no, 100%.
So I just feel like with Bruno, I think he needs to adapt when and where. I think he needs to. He can still take risks and all this, but I think he just needs to adapt where he does it. And I just think he needs to be more. He's not good in tight spaces. I think that's a big weakness with Bruno. I think he needs to improve that. And if he can't, as I said, I would drop him for the game against Brentford. I'd possibly drop Rashford as well. But then if you drop those two, you haven't really got any directness in your team. So it's just about balance. But yeah, personally, I've always had the same opinion. I think he's a decent player, but he will have to adapt and refine.
I wish I just don't get it, because I do think when he's more reined in, you might not get the goals and assists, but there's quality in there, right? There is quality in Bruno. I like even the cross that he played for Rashford last week. Really good cross. That Rashford skied over the crossbar. Great cross.
Which one was that? I can't remember that one.
So remember this? There was the first miss where it was an offsides, right? And then the second one, he played it was on the right hand channel. Beautiful cross to Rashford. Rashford takes it first time, and it just blasts over the crossbar.
That's the one that went into Rose there.
Yes, exactly. So he always shows the signs, and he always shows the ability, but he just doesn't have the football IQ for me, which is tragic, honestly, because there is talent in there. And I think that's why managers pick him, because they see that the quality is better than, just in terms of like those flashpoint moments. It's probably better than most, but it's too much, just like you mentioned, just poor decision making week in and week out. But we'll go for like 3-4 more minutes. But what do you think? Let's get into predictions here. What do you think the score will be?
Well, I predicted 1-1 last week against Brighton, because I just didn't. It's another game. I don't really. I'm always honest. I'm not going to come out here. I don't really fancy to win this game. Really. Obviously, you've got to wait until you see the lineups. but I think we could be in for another like tough. It'd be a tough game. God, it's tough. It really is. I might go for another 1-1. We've got to win though, because if we don't win this game, well,
Liverpool next.
Liverpool, there's possibly not. Well, if this all goes through, there's possibly not going to be not many United fans in the ground as well, with this empty Old Trafford sort of thing going around Twitter. So if United fans want to protest outside, that's going to be an unpleasant. So the Liverpool game might even be cancelled if United fans want to protest and everything. So this could be the last game before the storm, if you like, if United are really serious about the protest. So we really need to get 3 points. But I think we'll struggle. I think I'm going to go for one.
Yeah, it's going to be. I'm torn. I think the midfield, Brighton's midfield, is much better than this midfield we're about to come up against, which is a big thing. If Ten Hag makes the changes, I think he will make. I think we'll eke past this. If Ronaldo starts, if Eriksen starts in a midfield position, I think we will. I think we'll win, but barely. I'm going to say 1-0. I'm going to say 1-0. I think that it's going to be a very ugly game. I think it's going to be a game where our center back is going to be tested, right? I think Tony's going to give Maguire a difficult game, but I think we'll just eke it out in the end. I think we'll just eke it out. I'm so interested to see what's been happening. I wish I had lines to see what's happening on the training pitch, because I know Ten Hag was probably livid all week. So I think there's that element of the manager probably putting the fear of God in them, which I'm kind of relying on too. Maybe he was a bit too happy coming into this game. Maybe he gave a really positive pregame speech. In this game, he's probably like, you guys better fucking win, or I'm turning some heads.
I think that's the issue. Like, a lot of these players can't sort of take criticism. They need, I think that's why they did so well under Ollie, because I think Ollie was not that sort of man to shout. He was more of that man to put an arm around a shoulder. I think a lot of these players can't deal with sort of home truths. They can't deal with, you've been crap or you've not played well. I don't think they can deal with that. I think a lot of them are entitled. I think a lot of them think they're better than they are. So if Ten Hag is going to do that, I think Ranić did the same. Ranić called them all out, and look how they reacted. They said, "Oh, I'm not having any of this." So I want Ten Hag to do that, but we've seen, Temi, haven't we? The way these players have reacted to criticism, the way they reacted to Ronaldo coming in the dressing room. They're not players that can. Obviously, I don't know this for certain, but the way I see things from the outside, they don't look like players you can take criticism.
Yeah, it's a weird one, man, because I don't think these players are not trying. I do think it's a quality thing. I genuinely believe it's just a lack of quality in a lot of these players, which I want to. Fred tries hard. McTominay tries hard. Rashford doesn't try hard. But Sancho tries hard. Even Dalot tries hard, even though I think he's defensively weak. Right. It's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be a really interesting weekend. I am nervous. I'm apprehensive, but at the same time, I'm excited, because I think that if we do get a win, away to Brentford after the way we performed last week, I think there's going to be an element of everyone's just going to kind of take a deep breath and say, okay, let's just handle the challenge that's now in front of us, which is the mighty Liverpool. So nervous, guys, get your score predictions in the comments, man. I really appreciate the interaction this morning. A lot of comments, guys. Make sure to follow Charlie. All of his information is in my video description, so make sure to check that out in the video description. His Instagram, his Twitter, and his YouTube channel. Make sure to follow him on all his platforms. Okay. Is there anything else you want to plug real quick, Charlie, that you...
No, that's great, mate. Thanks a lot for having me on. Yeah, just THREADMANCHAZA as always. And it's been a pleasure, mate. It's a shame we can't do these videos with more positivity.
I know. I know. I want to be happy and talk about just what players can do and not what they can't do. Exactly. But it's the position that Manchester United has put us in. It's not our fault. We just have to call it how we see it. We're gonna give the consumers real, honest opinions. That's what it is about. It's about on this channel. I want to, like I said, I want to bring people on the channel that are very intelligent, have great football minds. And guys, we're gonna have another show tomorrow. I'm tired. This probably like show number 5 or 6 this week. Make sure to show some love for all of you who are watching for the first time. Make sure to hit the like button, okay? Guys, if you don't mind retweeting and sharing this with your friends, we have 8 to 10 people still watching. Make sure to let your friends know about the channel. We're 15 subscribers away from 300, right? So guys, make sure to just show some love there. It's been a great time. Charlie, thank you so much again.
Thanks
for showing love. Guys, make sure to follow Charlie, like I said. And we will talk to you guys very, very shortly, okay? Deuces.